out.
Yeah, yeah.
See Mac and Young Ball.
Check. White nights, black mice, sound check twice. Yeah, she a keeper, but I always leave her. Forearm Shiva, can't get any deeper. You a hurdle kid, I'm gonna leap you.
What's up? Another exciting week of sports in the books. Now, before we dive right into it, I want to welcome you guys to the first episode of King's Sportscast. We're just real sports talk, anything from on-the-field play to off-the-field drama. We'll have guests, phone calls, interactive polls. It should be a whole lot of fun. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to us at Twitter, SoundCloud, follow us on Facebook. It's at King's Sportscast. Any feedback, DM us greatly. It will be greatly appreciated. Now, let's get back to some sports. My first guest is actually the host of the Highly Offensive Fantasy Football Podcast. We're very pleased to have him on our show. You'll be seeing him a lot. He's one of my actual dear friends. And I'm sure if you listened, and if you haven't listened to him, you definitely need to give him go get a check out because he's helped me out a whole heck of a lot in my fantasy team. Now, let's give a whole King's Sportscast welcome to Wayne.
Hey guys, what's up? What's up? Yeah, like Ryan was saying, I am from the Highly Offensive Fantasy Show. We talk about a lot of football knowledge as far as week to week, who to pick up, all that good stuff. It's late in the year, but definitely go ahead and subscribe on iTunes for us, and we will definitely help set up for next year in that fantasy season. But yeah, Ryan, thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited and honored to be on here for your first episode. I think you're going to share a lot of good information with what's going on in the sports world and most importantly, be really entertaining for a lot of people. So, guys, make sure you subscribe. If you need directions or anything like that, just hit one of us up and we'll walk you through that process so that it's downloaded to your phone every week automatically. You can just pick it up, listen for 45 minutes, have a good 45-minute ride, or maybe you're trying to take some time off of work. Whatever the case is, we really appreciate you listening in.
Sweet. Yeah, I mean, you put it pretty simply there. I think we should just dive right in here. I think the first topic of most of our listeners, I think this game was the main focus of maybe the whole season, especially the regular season, this Chiefs-Rams game, man. I don't know if I've been that hyped on a regular season game that didn't involve the Patriots in a while.
Man, this was the highest scoring Monday Night Football game of all time, and I'm pretty sure it was up there as far as high scoring NFL games of all time. This was action-packed back-to-back. I mean, even some of the punts were cool, like toward the end of the game. You had the Rams punter kick one almost, I think it was almost 70 yards. It was just nuts, over 1,000 yards of total offense. Jared Goff looked really good. Mahomes, he can put up points, but he did turn the ball over a few times. With that being said, the Rams did end up winning this game, and both teams scored in the 50s. What do you think as far as like people saying that this is the new age NFL? It's more of a 7-on-7 now, or people are even saying it's almost flag football now. What do you think about that? And do you think that this specific game is a good representation of what we're going to see going forward in the NFL? I know for fantasy purposes, all of my fantasy players, we're loving this, man. All these points being put up. If you had a player on either one of these teams, they are going off and probably ended up winning you the week. But I mean, what are your thoughts on it and all that offense and all those points scored?
Well, for my fantasy team, I was loving Tyreek putting up 35, a little icing on the cake of my victory this week. So I'm not hating on any of the offense. For an outlier, I mean, you definitely could say that the league is heading towards more of an offensive focus with the rule changes. I mean, they need to protect their quarterbacks. Those are the real money makers. Like, if you don't have a quarterback in this league, like, do people even go to your games? I mean, they're tough to watch without a good quarterback. So this game had your quarterbacks, that's checked off. I mean, I played football, when I was younger. It was all about smashing people. I obviously wasn't a speed burner myself, so I definitely was smacking people. But, I mean, quality goes both ways, and, I mean, you can't get much better than this. I'm not going to be the person to be prisoner of the moment and act like this is the best regular season of all time game, because I'm not going to discredit 40, 50 years of the NFL. But I am going to say, I mean, this is easily the best game of the year and like the most. I mean, you said it right there. I just this is what we want. Like this is excitement. More people are gonna watch the NFL, and if we want our sport to live on, I really think that we gotta take the head hits out. And this game, like that's like real athleticism. You know, it's not just some dirty physical play, and it's kind of like basketball. Like yes, it's not as physical as it used to be, right? But I mean, come on, look at the athletes that are playing nowadays. It's incredible, the speed and the size. I mean, look at Aaron Donald. He's just a freak of nature.
These guys are one taking care of themselves a lot better, and then the NFL is doing a good job. They're taking away those hits, those Sean Taylor hits we used to see back in the day where he was just rocking people, but you could also get a guy out for the whole year, and no one really wants to see that. To keep fans in the stands as far as that goes, you want to have your key money makers there healthy playing in the games. I mean, there's been Monday night games where you have Nick Mullen, who had a good game, versus some other backup, and that's what the NFL, it seems like, is trying to get away from. And like I said before, from a fantasy football perspective, that's what we want. We want these high scoring games. I've watched the NFL since I was 10 years old. I've seen it evolve from a complete running game when LaDainian Tomlinson was the primary offensive guy for really the NFL, and it was real running back heavy back then, to now the quarterbacks are taking it over, wide receivers are taking it over, the running backs are getting different. They're more catch it out of the backfield type running backs, and I'm excited about it, man. I love how it's evolved to this point. I think the defenses are still good. They're just more sack oriented and more turnover oriented as far as that goes. But like you've seen in this game, there was still some defensive touchdowns. Yeah, a ton of yards were scored, a ton of yards were put up, but there were some defensive touchdowns, and that makes the game, in my opinion, 50 times more exciting whenever you have defenses that can score, quarterbacks that can score on 2-3 plays, guys like Tyreek Hill that are just streaking down the field, getting behind the defense, making guys fall. It's really fun, and it's really interesting to watch, and I hope it keeps going in this direction. But I think that you still have to have that good defense like the Saints do, tied in with a good quarterback. I think the Saints can give any one of these guys a run for their money as far as the Chiefs or Rams go. And I think that if they meet the Saints in the playoffs, the Saints are going to have the upper hand just because of that defense.
I'm in agreement there. I really think that the Saints are the team for me to come out of the NFC, because I just think when you have Drew Brees, you have that running game with the way that Kamara comes out of the backfield and Michael Thomas seems unguardable, and with Brees, and you give him a little defense, it's like any of these big quarterbacks like Brady, Brees, like think about Rodgers. You give him Kamara in this offense, a little defense, the man's going to win titles. I just think that, to me, the experience will overcome maybe a Jared Goff in a playoff game, because Jared Goff, from my understanding, I don't want to quote myself, he didn't have a good playoff game his first game after just tearing the league up. And he's doing it again. And I don't want to be like the negative Nancy, but, I mean, we waited a decade, it felt like, for Peyton Manning to win a damn playoff game.
No, you're right, man. Jared Goff got beat out with home field advantage last year, first game of the playoffs. And, that was his first actual year starting, similar to how Patrick Mahomes is, and that's why you see the 5 turnovers with a couple of them going back for scores. But I think Jared Goff has gotten a lot better. He's gotten a lot more comfortable with the offense. So he's not there yet to beat a Brees or a Brady, but I think he is on track to do so. I'm not going to, I'm not saying you're discrediting him, but I do think he's on track to get there. Probably, you're right. It's probably not going to be this year, because we've seen it time and time again. When the Chiefs get up against a better offensive coach or a better offensive mind than Andy Reid, he kind of gets out coached by a Belichick or a McVay. Then that's whenever you start seeing that the big holes on defense and them not being able to stop anyone. And then also Mahomes showing some of that youth and this basically being his first year in the NFL. So I'm with you, man. You got to have a defense. You still got to have a running game. So I don't think we're there as far as this being a 7-on-7 or a flag football league.
Look
I
at
still
Aaron
think
Donald. I mean, Aaron Donald was a big factor in that game. So I mean, 7-on-7, Donald doesn't even play. So I don't want to hear the 7-on-7 stuff. It's just
exactly,
instead of
exactly.
like just the dirty, like just the hits after hits after hits. We're gonna save our players. Like think about the players and the way they are now. These guys, they barely living past 50, 60 without walking around like unable to speak. Some of them. So I would rather our players long term. Like think about basketball. Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Russell still hanging out and being cognitive. That helps the sport long term to have those legends be alive longer. And football could suffer, like a similar fate to like boxing if they don't be careful. And I think they're taking the right steps, even though they're pissing off some of the old heads.
For sure, man. You have to evolve. You have to evolve and you have to change up the game. Like you said, the old guys are getting pissed because there's not as much blood and snot flying whenever someone gets hit. But that's the new age NFL, and I love it personally. I love it.
Well, honestly, I agree with you. I think change is evident, but the one thing I would never like to change is Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving Day. And I think we should move on to these Thanksgiving games.
Oh man, some food and football and a couple naps here and there too to tie it all in. It's one of my most favorite days of the year, honestly. Get 3 football games from noon till night, and a ton of food, a couple meals, and even leftovers. I don't think you can think of a better circumstance. No work, but yeah, we got some fun Thursday games. What's the first one on the schedule?
I guess you could go Bears Lions is the first one. I think that's the first one of the day, right? I didn't check the times.
Yeah, you're right. It is the Bears and the Lions. So the Bears, just to kind of come into a fantasy perspective.
Is Mitch out? Is Mitch out for this? Is he determined?
He's hurt right now. So that was one of my highlights I was going to talk about as far as this game goes in fantasy wise. So the Bears are definitely good enough, obviously defensively, to win this game without Mitch. But he is nursing a shoulder, and it looks like he could possibly be out against a pretty weak Lions defense. And then on the other side of the ball, Kerryon Johnson is definitely going to be out. They thought he actually tore his ACL during the game whenever he was taken off the field, but it looks like he's just going to miss maybe a week, 2 at the most, and get back out there for our fantasy teams. I know I'm missing him, but this is going to be a good, warm me up. I just had some food. I'm stuffed. I'm about to go into my food coma. I just need to throw some football on, chill out, maybe pass out a couple of times throughout the game. It's not going to be that exciting, but it's football. It's on early, and I get to see this happen. But, Chicago versus Detroit, poor Stafford's going to be running for his life, I think.
To kind of segue from your point on people freaking out about this like being a non-defensive league, I mean, I guess they're just not choosing to watch some of these games, because if you watch Khalil Mack, I mean, my whole life was based on of Lawrence Taylor. He was my hero. I wore his number in high school, and this man is if you really take it without being like, biased towards Lawrence Taylor, you really look at him, this man is the second coming. I mean, this dude is just a freak of nature size-wise. I mean, it's just, he's not like, unlike Lawrence Taylor, I mean, he proved he's probably the best he's the best non-quarterback player ever, maybe, other than Jerry Rice, in my opinion. You can't deny the fact that in the modern era, Khalil Mack is way more off the field dedicated than Lawrence Taylor was. And he's my hero, but I mean, we could all agree, if you know anything about Lawrence Taylor, he wasn't doing things off the field to benefit on the field. He was just a monster. So to see someone that dedicated also be like in the mode, like he's changed this Bears team from no one thought they were about to win this division to like they play their cards right. They can control their own destiny right now, which is huge.
Yeah, if these guys get home field advantage with somebody like Khalil Mack, who can single-handedly control a game based off of just sacks and the way he forces fumbles, and after he forces the fumbles, he gets the ball back too, man. It's kind of crazy to see. And yeah, if you're old enough to ever seen Lawrence Taylor play, or if you haven't, go type in on YouTube Lawrence Taylor highlights, because there's a lot of similarities between these guys. And Lawrence Taylor used to absolutely smack people.
Lawrence Taylor is more of the nasty, like he would do the extra stuff where like they're both built the same. Like they both, like when I say I see the same players, when I see them pass rush, I mean there's just it looks like creepy almost to me at least.
Yeah, did you see the Khalil Mack highlight where he literally tossed a left tackle with one hand?
No,
he just
he does that like inside rush and then he just punches in like these tackles. I mean, from playing line, it's not really hard. Like when they start going one way, it's really like easier than it looks. Like yeah, they're big 300-pound guys, but when they lose their balance, we call them roly-poly-olies, you know?
Oh yeah, if you know,
got him on a leg and just threw his ass. So
yeah.
I mean, watching him, like yeah, the Bears' offense is hit or miss. Like sometimes Trubisky goes crazy, and sometimes it's like he's running like the triple option because he can't throw a ball. So I mean, Khalil Mack, that first game, I mean, I'm not gonna be like dead if I miss this game or not, or if I'm sleeping all the way through it from the food. But I mean, I'll always watch some Khalil Mack.
No doubt, man. I can't wait to see the Bears in the playoffs because it looks like they're going to wrap up that division. If they get home field advantage on Soldier Field, it's going to be over for a lot of teams. It's going to be tough for someone like Jared Goff to go in there if they end up getting home.
They're a playoff team that could like ruin it, like a Rams type season, but I don't think that they're gonna. I think if they ran into like a Breeze, he would do like a Brady type thing and just figure it out. You know, take the experience in his hands. And I really like the Saints this year. You're gonna hear me a lot in this podcast. There's nothing that I don't think the Saints can do. It's all in the NFC. I really think that like, and if Breeze gets his second title, I mean, there's a lot of historic implications that come with that I don't know if people are ready to address because I don't think anyone gives Breeze the credit. But speaking about Breeze, why don't we talk about this Falcons Saints game? We're getting some breezy, easy, lemon peasy on the Thursday. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, man, that's the. I'm pretty sure that's the night game, and there should be a ton of points scored.
Oh, I guess I skipped that irrelevant team in Dallas. I don't remember that.
Yeah, we can circle back around. That's the middle of the pack game, so you'll probably be at full force nap time whenever the Redskins and Cowboys are playing.
It's gonna be a. Anyway, we'll crap on the Cowboys later.
Yeah, but the Falcons at the Saints for that Thursday night game. Hey, there's going to be a lot of points scored. If there's one thing that Matt Ryan can do, he can score on the Saints defense. He proved that earlier in the year. Not a lot of teams can say that. I mean, the Eagles just got stumped by the Saints defense. They were in Carson Wentz's ass all game long. They blew them out. It was pretty crazy to see. It kind of made me raise an eyebrow as far as the Saints defense and, you know, how good they really can be. But yeah, you got Breeze, who I think is an MVP candidate. No doubt about that. And then the Falcons, they're just fighting to even have a contention at a playoffs, maybe wild card spot. But I mean, do you see them making it in at this point in the season? I mean, we're pretty late in the year.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I'm a little biased against the Falcons. I just like, you know, when someone repeatedly gives you the same thing over and over again, you don't expect different. And when it comes down to clutchness, I don't expect the Falcons to be clutch. I love Matt Ryan in college. I mean, he's not Matty Ice in the pros. He's like Matty Butterfingers or something. I don't know. But I think this
and their
game's
defense
gonna be different. I think that the odds makers, like, you know, like Vegas is pretty good at their job. And I think they see what I see, and that first game was, I think, the first or second game of the year. The Saints kind of weren't like the team that they are now. They kind of like figured their mojo, where I think the Falcons suffered so many injuries on defense. I think the Julio Matt thing is just like warping because like Julio, I mean, like Julio's almost been unarguably the best receiver in the league and not scoring. Like, how can you be the best receiver arguably in the league and not get in the end zone? I mean, I think
it's not his fault. I don't think it's his fault.
Defensive side, that they're not like the Saints being so good on offense. Like, for them to lose all those great players, I think they got Dion back. I know one of my listeners, I think, actually informed me on that. But even with just Dion back, I think in the secondary, I think they just lost. Who they just lose to? The Ravens? Didn't Lamar Jackson just win a game against the Falcons? Was that them?
No. Lamar just beat the Bengals.
Oh, the Bengals. Sorry, the Bungles, the Falcons. You get these teams mixed up who just like to fumble games.
Yeah, the Cowboys actually just beat
Oh,
the Falcons
there's
last
another
week.
impressive team the Falcons didn't defeat. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I just think the Falcons are in like a like kind of like that Super Bowl drought. So like they have this team that's good, but it's like they should have a Super Bowl and they don't because of things that they naturally do as an organization. Like they just time and time again, like their history, they're like starting to become this team that's historically just almost there type. You know what I mean? Like the Chargers
Yeah.
kind of have that where like they're good, they're always competitive, but they can never get the chip. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
I think with that game, I think the Saints like there's a good chance the Saints at home just blow them out. I could see this getting bad, but since it's a divisional game, you never know. The NFC South's competitive, and the Saints defense, as good as they've been recently, has shown the potential to get scores run up on them. So I think now we did just talk about the Cowboys beating the Falcons, so I guess we could, translate to that. And speaking of Lawrence Taylor earlier, I mean, that Alex Smith tackle is rough. I mean, that was Joe Theismann 2.0, and even Theismann himself, I think, threw out the tweet.
Yeah, it was crazy. They said that the break was almost the exact same injury as the Theismann injury, and a lot of old school Redskins fans know about that injury and how bad it sucked because they were
A little deja vu.
they were having a little production as far as the season goes, just like this year, leading the division. It didn't look like it doesn't look like right now that anyone's going to put pressure. I mean, who you got? The Eagles, they just got blown out, and then the Cowboys, who time and time again they struggle on the offensive end. Their defense is looking pretty good as far as that goes, but the Redskins got that lead. I think the Cowboys actually have a chance if they beat them, which how Vegas they say that they're a 7-point favorite in this game. If the Cowboys come out and win this game, they have a real good chance of catching up with the Redskins. I mean, Colt McCoy looked decent in whenever he was relieving Alex Smith. He's definitely not a viable fantasy quarterback, and he definitely downgrades a lot of guys on that offense. But he targeted Jordan Reed early and often whenever he came in. They were down huge, don't get me wrong. But I don't see Colt McCoy. I mean, he's a backup for a reason. He wouldn't be a backup on a lot of teams, but he is on this one. I don't see him leading them to a winning record for the remainder of the season, but that's just me.
The Redskins are another team for me that's like, until you prove me otherwise, I'm not going to expect much, Like, I'm not going to expect you to win when you don't. And the NFC East is that type of division. You start out 6-2 and somehow you lose it. You don't go to the playoffs. I feel like the Cowboys have like the most identity in the division. Like I think the Eagles, like they're in turmoil with this, like they're the Super Bowl hangover stuff, and the way they are. And then I just feel like with the Redskins, they like the horrific injury. Like Colt McCoy's always been a good backup. Like he's come in and actually performed well in games, and just a little fantasy add, and I think only Adrian Peterson gets upped with fantasy value because of Colt McCoy coming in, and I'm excited because he's one of my backs. So I just want to throw that out there. If you drafted AP, I think his value went up. My personal fantasy opinion, but
yeah, they're definitely going to have to hand the ball off to him. They've already been giving it to him 25 plus times a game in a lot of cases. They got a good defense, so I'm with you. I think Adrian Peterson gets a bump unless the defense figures out that Colt McCoy is not going to do anything against them.
like
he's going to have to make some
negative.
throws.
It's like a plus minus. It's like a 50-50. But honestly, I like the Cowboys in this game. If they, the Redskins, like they can afford a loss. Not saying they should, because that's not a good way to play any sport. But I definitely think that the Cowboys, they're coming off a couple good wins. They're kind of finding their like identity with like run the ball with Zeke. Their defense has been a lot better than I think anticipated, and I think that with Dak, if he can just, do a couple extra things with his feet, make the throws, not turn the ball over, like there's no reason we could be seeing a tight race here at the end of the year, you know, with the Redskins, Cowboys, and all the teams are really in it. Like, even as sorry as it sounds, Odell Beckham, if he does what he says and wins 8 in a row, like teams could lose to the point where they're back in it. Like, that's how the NFC just East is. Like, they're all, like, I feel like it's 4 at 9 and 7 teams, like, you know, vying for the division title every year. It's kind of funny, you know.
No, I'm with you, man. I mean, it's that NFC East is kind of you can say it's a joke, but anything can happen. All you got to do is make it to the playoffs, and usually, if you got some health behind you and have some healthy players, you can make some noise. So I think it's definitely wide open, though. The NFC East is definitely wide open. The first start would be the Cowboys beating the Redskins, and then the Giants might have a little glimmer of hope from that point on. But that's what makes football in the NFL so exciting, man. There's always, you know, it's not over until the last game is played, especially in the playoff pictures. So I'm excited. At least puts a little bit on that game. That's going to be right in the middle of the day, so people have to pay attention other than fantasy.
I agree with you. I think that, you know, the NFL is the only regular season in sports where it's like every game means something and it's worth watching. You know, as being a basketball fan, you know, like or a baseball fan. I'm not saying like I'm a passionate fan, but I'm not watching all those games. Like I got stuff to do.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I feel like with football, they definitely have hit a chord where like the games all matter and that you can come back at it, like, you know. So I think that, like, and I'm not saying the Giants are going to do it. I definitely think that they're a trash can fire, but I just think that NFC East is just up for grabs. Since if Alex Smith doesn't get hurt, I think that he's such a game manager. He just coasts to like 11-5 and 10-6, and the rest of the division implodes. But,
Absolutely.
Now it's wide open, but let's talk about a little less interesting regular season and talk some basketball, dude. Let's talk about LeBron, man. This guy's going crazy right now, and I think people are really not valuing what he's doing at the age he's doing it, the year he's doing it, and like really seeing his like statistics at the minutes he's playing. I think people are really undervaluing him because he missed a couple free throws and Skip Bayless wants to ride him.
Yeah, no, speaking of someone who understands the importance behind regular season games in basketball is LeBron James. He comes out the first 10 games. He admits that he got a little flustered and said he had to remind himself that he knows this is going to be a process and he's surrounded by all these young players. But he came out, he wasn't playing great defense. He was, playing minutes, but he wasn't really taking over the offense. As soon as they got a little bit of a break, they had a 3-day break. He comes out, boom, near triple-double. 2-day break, next game, 50 points. Like he is showing he wanted to remind everyone that he is the greatest player in the NBA, that you all can start, whispering right now in the beginning of the regular season, but he's smart enough. He understands his age, and he is taking a break early on in the season, letting these guys develop, and he's going to come ready whenever it comes playoff time. He's not worried about the MVP trophies anymore. He's after one thing, and that's beating the Golden State Warriors. And I love it, man. I think whenever people, I wouldn't say I was a LeBron hater at any point in my life, but I was definitely not a fan of him. I am a fan of the Lakers, so whenever he obviously signed with the Lakers, I had to switch up and start rooting for him. And I'm glad, man. I love seeing how much he's taken his game and developed it similar to how Kobe had to. You can't out jump everyone for 20 years. You got to develop your game, start getting smarter. He's one of the best passers in the league too, and it's really cool to watch. I can't wait for the playoff race to start in the NBA. I know we're pretty far from that, but I think he can really make some noise in the West.
You're saying he's one of the best passers, or because I mean,
no, he's one of the best passers right now in the NBA, and he is the best passing forward by far, but one of the best passers, and that's up there with all the point guards, all those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a weird guy because I'm a Celtics fan, but I've seen LeBron my whole life. I don't know why anyone would having, you know what I mean? He's like the greatest player ever. He's done it since high school. He's been the number one player of his age and in his league probably since he was 14 years old. No off the field blemishes. I mean, I'm not trying to be the LeBron homer because I'll definitely call him out because he definitely does some bad stuff or stuff you could say on the court, not off the court, that you could hate on. But I mean, what he's doing right now at the length he's doing it, like he's still statistically in his prime. Like obviously athletically, not in his prime anymore. He's not just cramming it and chase down blocks, but that comes with intelligence and longevity and knowing like, you know, every possession, like there's going to be more important possessions than others. And I think all great players have transformed, like, you know, people just have blinders for the people that went through their generations. You know, they're like, they don't want to remember that their exact athletes and stars did the same things that LeBron's doing. But LeBron's doing it at an unprecedented level. I mean, the other day, I think Kemba outscored him to take the lead, but he was leading the league in scoring in his 16th, 17th year. Like, that's unprecedented. Like, this is unprecedented. And it doesn't look like he would slow down. Like, maybe he'll slow down physically, but I mean, he looks like he's going to score efficiently for another 2 to 5 years. And I mean, at that point, you're really putting him in like Jerry Rice echelon type statistics where he's like number 2 in scoring, number 6 in assists. Like, he's the only player, I think me and you talked about it earlier, that is in the top 10 in assists and top 25 in scoring. So that means there's 24 other scorers who aren't even close to the amount of assists he has. And he's 4th, I think, in scoring, or 5th. I think he's like he's like in the top 6. So I think right there alone, I mean, if he does that, right, he averages that out and he squeezes a chip or 2 chips, I mean, you can't tell me that he couldn't be the second best player on a championship team in the next 5 years. Like, you know, if a big like Anthony Davis type star comes through, I mean, the sky's the limit. And I think anyone who thinks he's not the GOAT or can't be the GOAT doesn't realize that he actually is still playing, and Michael Jordan can't come back. So you guys better be careful what you wish for, because I think this guy has the opportunity with the amount of money he puts in, that like he doesn't spend a waking minute not being about basketball. And as great as Michael Jordan was, he did have off the field stuff that probably led to his career not being as long as it was.
Yeah, man, I agree. I'm really wondering at this point in the season and at this point in LeBron's career, what the Lakers are thinking. I don't think that the team they have right now, obviously they got to add a piece in the free agency for the upcoming year, but I think they should go ahead and make some moves. Brandon Ingram doesn't look as good as what we kind of all thought that he was going to be coming into the year. And even LeBron probably thought he was going to be a little bit better as more of a primary scorer versus he's like, I think 3rd on the team in scoring. So I think they should go ahead and move him. And that's saying a lot, because I'm a huge Brandon Ingram fan, but I think they should go ahead and move him, get another piece around LeBron, because you get that one more piece and he actually has a chance to at least compete with Golden State. That's going to entice another free agent, or maybe entice Anthony Davis, someone like that, to try to make a move to get there this year or next year. So you go ahead and make that move while you have LeBron still in his prime, surprisingly, still in his prime at this age. Go ahead and make that move. Get him another all-star over there. And then they add that 3rd piece, man, and it's over. He's gonna get 2, maybe 3 more championships, but there is a short window. I mean, he can't play forever. He can do it. He is the GOAT, but he can't play forever as far as that's concerned. So I hope they make that move. Go ahead and start moving those pieces around to work something in, because he's definitely still talented enough to take down Golden State.
Yeah,
and we all got to be honest. That's the main goal here. No one wants to see Golden State win another championship.
Yeah, I'm really not trying to see Draymond Green with 4 titles. I might throw up in my mouth. But my big thing, I think, you know, obviously we're not as NBA insider as we may think. I think the Lakers obviously have probably tried to shop all of the young guys and try to, like, you know, obviously see, like, you know, just to see what's up. And I think the real thing is, I agree with you to an extent. Like, I wouldn't want to trade Brandon Ingram for someone who basically they probably know is going to be a free agent, right? Like, we
Sure.
might not know. Like, yeah, we want Brandon Ingram to get traded for Anthony Davis, but what if they already know Anthony Davis don't want to be there no more? You know what I mean? So, like, we couldn't know that. Or, like, I agree with you. If they can do it now, there's no reason to throw this season away. If they can squeeze into a to a playoff spot, there's no reason you put LeBron in a series and he won't get you something. Like, I think that if they got one more piece, they're competitive this year. I don't think they win, but they're definitely enough to maybe win. But I don't know if I'm not trying to. I don't know which one is which to move, but I think Lonzo. You got to think about Lonzo, moving Lonzo, because Brandon Ingram at least you think could at least guard, like play defense on more people than Lonzo can. As good as Lonzo has, I guess, been at defense, at least his rookie year. I think
those guys are really young still, like really young.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, is the Lakers, as much as you want to help LeBron, like I think that next year with the way the free agency market looks, like there's a chance that they could just save their players, pay one dude, and maybe they develop, maybe they don't. I just don't think they lose much value over a year. And if you're gonna get someone in the free agency, you might as well not throw away that the value of those players. So I don't really see like unless they like a horrible injury, not ever hoping for something for that. But I think that I don't know. I think they should stay the course. If they get offered a good deal, I'm not saying don't flirt. I say go and search for the deals, but don't force it by any means, because the longer I feel like those young players, if LeBron can be open-minded and not, freak out, there's no reason those players being around LeBron is not going to make them better. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's one thing. It's like you're straddling that line of mortgaging your future for wins now with the team that Golden State has. I mean, you could add two pieces and still not be good enough to beat them. Mm-hmm. I think they would, but there's still a good chance that you get a Kemba Walker or a Bradley Beal, send them in, who's a star right now, at least an all-star, to say the least. Get them in there right now, and they don't work out or something. They don't fit good with LeBron and the rest of the guys, and you just wasted Brandon Ingram or Lonzo Ball for someone who's going to end up leaving. So I agree. It's a line that I think they probably talked to LeBron a lot about. That's why he signed that 4-year deal, 3 years and an option, because he wanted to give them time to build around him. But again, he still looks great.
Jabbing the gut to Dan Gilbert, immediately signs a 4-year deal with Magic. Gotta love it. Gotta love the trolling. Dan Gilbert, the dumbest owner in sports, but we won't talk about him more than right now. But I think I agree with you. I think LeBron's got to be watching guys like Kemba, and if you think about it, LeBron is the most successful when he has someone else who could go take the ball for a little bit, let him just hang out, catch some energy, and just go get your own shot. Think about Dwayne Wade. Not the 3-point shooter or the dribble. He could just do stuff. He could get to the basket. He can hit the mid-range. He could play defense, and he can handle the ball. Kyrie's more of the, off the dribble, can pull up the three. He can do a lot more stuff in that department. But I think LeBron is most successful when he can just rely on someone and not have to worry about them holding the ball. I can trust Kyrie because he does good stuff with the ball. He can create his own shot. So I feel like if they went and got Kemba and the way he's playing, I mean, I'm not saying they'll win a title, but I mean, man, that's going to be a heck of an exciting playoff series. And if you have that in Los Angeles, I mean, I don't know why Jeannie Buss isn't just pushing for this. That's my personal opinion on this.
Yeah, if you were going to compare anyone to someone who LeBron has had success in Kyrie Irving, I think the closest comparison would be Kemba Walker. Yeah, you could split hairs and say, okay, he doesn't have maybe as good as a shot, and his step back's a little bit better. Maybe Kyrie passes a little bit better than Kemba. But if you were to take two players and say these two players are the closest related as far as skills and attributes go, then I would say that Kemba would come in a close race with that with Kyrie Irving. So I would love to see Kemba and LeBron playing together. That's two guys, that one, again, keeping the Warriors in mind, Steph Curry is not guarding Kemba Walker. I don't care what anyone says. It's not happening. He is he's not keeping up with Kemba.
Another series to watch Steph just get crossed up. He tries his little
Exactly.
heart out, but yeah, no. But with Kemba too. Actually, I'm gonna have a guest on the show here in a couple weeks that actually went to UConn and has some cool stories about Kemba Walker, Napier. What was the guard, the tall kind of guard forward, went to OKC.
Lamb.
Lamb, Josh. Yeah, he has a bunch of stories about them. It'd be cool to have him on the show, but I mean, Kemba's doing some just unbelievable, UConn streaky Big East tourney championship. Kemba, the NBA, it's just awesome. He's like, for me, he's like Melo. He can always do no wrong for what he did in college to me. So to see him ball out in the pros is just awesome. Just brings you those good feelings from when you watch Kemba ball out for UConn.
And he's another perfect example of going back to Ingram and Lonzo, like how much time it can take for players to develop. Kemba was the truth in college. He came into the NBA and he was good statistically, but he was nowhere near the player he is now. And this is his 7th, 8th year in the league. It takes time for these guys to develop. That's another thing. People, they get on the Lonzo for not being able to shoot yet, and they get on to Brandon Ingram because he's so big and lanky. He should be scoring like KD. It's like, no, man, these guys are 21, 22 years old. You got to give them time, and then once you give them time, you get the guy like Kemba Walker who is just straight tearing up the NBA right now. It's early in the season, but
completely
the man's
agree with you. Awesome.
The man's average
good for the sport.
Yeah, he's averaging 30 points a game with Charlotte. 30 points a game, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds. I mean, you throw that in there with LeBron, JaVale, and Tyson Chandler down low protecting the rim because Kemba doesn't have the best defense either. But still, you throw that in there, that offense would be hot to watch. I mean, it would be
other than
fun.
I just don't. If I'm the Lakers, I mean, you got forwards. I mean, you don't need any more damn forwards. You need a guard. You need some guard to really truly be able to go off the dribble. And I feel like Lonzo is more like a smaller forward. Like he's more of like a LeBron methodical breakdown passer. He's not like where he's just gonna explosively destroy you and pull up. And I feel like Josh Hart can kind of do that. He can kind of do a little of everything for you, and I love his game. I think he's like an awesome 6-man for that team when they get all well and good. I think if you could get him maxed out in a couple of years, potentially awesome 6-man type guy. But
sure, yeah, he's great spot up shooter. Great spot up shooter.
Kemba's gonna get paid, unless he just signed a deal. But I'm pretty sure he's a free agent after this year. But
he's going to be
get paid. He's going to get that Isaiah Thomas type deal that Isaiah thought he was getting. So I'm really excited about that. Something I'm not really excited about, and I'm happy we get to talk about him because sometimes in these podcasts and the time you don't get to talk about things you want to talk about. But I think we need to give a round of applause to Adrian Beltre, man, retiring, old awesome baseball, your classic baseball guy,
One of the greatest players of our generation as far as the sport goes.
100%. The most underrated for how great. The greatest player to underrated. I feel like for normal people, they might even not even think Beltre's a Hall of Famer. That's at times.
Yeah. That's insane. The man had 3,100 hits, over 3,100 hits, and almost 500 home runs.
They didn't even celebrate his 3,000th hit. Think about Jeter's 3,000th hit. ESPN charted him out. Yo, Jeter's coming up to bat. Let's all go watch this. I remember. I don't remember when Beltre was up for that hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jeter, whenever Jeter was up for his 3,000th hit, I think for the 20 at bats leading up to it. They would shut everything down, give you a quick zoom in on his plate appearance, and then whatever happened, they go on about their business. Well, when you have Beltre, who statistically you can match his numbers up with Jeter, and that's not a knock against Jeter, it's just a knock against all these major sports outlets, and that's why I love podcasts, man. We can talk about the important stuff, and that's a guy like Adrian Beltre, his career. Give him a highlight because he deserves it, man. You can just tell the enthusiasm that when he was playing with teammates and even whenever he was playing against other all-stars in the MLB, the respect that you could just see through the games and their play, and when he would get on base, just people just talking with him, joking around. He's a man who, again, he's one of the greatest of our generation as far as fun to watch. And he's just a baseball guy, man.
Yeah, he
a
did a little of
guy.
everything. I mean, if you go through it, I mean, this man's 5-time Gold Glove, 4-time All-Star, 120 stolen bases. You wouldn't even think that he stole bases at one point, but he did it here and there. The 477 home runs. I mean, you knew him for his power, obviously, and the 3,166 hits. I mean, win above replacement, all of it's there. I mean, he's probably a first ballot, second ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion. I mean, he should be given that type of respect. For like 21 years in the majors, did it at a respectful level, like you said. He did it at a good teammate. In the steroid era, no steroids. He played for my Sox for a year, you know. So I'll always give my Sox guys credit, but just a great player, a big loss for Major League Baseball, especially for the new generation to have someone to look up to like an Adrian Beltre. And one of our listeners, one of my really, really good friends, he's really excited we're talking about him. I wish we had a whole podcast about Adrian Beltre, but there's
he deserves it. Man. He deserves it.
It deserves it. I mean, it's unbelievable. He has a couple seasons where he's second in MVP voting, third. He's got a second and a third. I mean, like he has a couple top 15 MVP votes, but I mean, you're seeing right there, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has 7 top 15 MVP votes over 21 years. I mean, I get it. He is not the top best player of all time, but I mean, consistency has got to be rewarded, you know, and it's unbelievable. Hands off to him. I mean, coming from Dominican Republic, you know, simple background, you know, I love my Dominican guys. You know, my poppies, they always play with, I think, they play with the perfect energy. Like, you want to play baseball with, that, like, fun, loving, hard work, great for your teammates, that's baseball.
Yeah, man. You said it. He is he's one of the great ones. And if he doesn't get into the Hall of Fame first ballot, there's something wrong with the voting system.
There's been something wrong with that, but they don't want to address it. I mean, Barry's not in there, and I don't care what you think about steroids. Barry Bonds is in the Hall of Fame. Like, steroids is a part of baseball. Get over it. Put him in the Hall of Fame. Put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. Reward for what these men did on the field, because it's absolutely ridiculous. These writers and these people who control the votes are like people who didn't even play or know the game. Like, get out of your boardroom, man. Like, I hate that stuff. I hate that stuff. The Terrell Owens stuff, holding him out for 5 years. Like, it's just pathetic when these players lay their, you know, obviously with football, lay their like lives down on the line to an extent, and that's how you treat them. I'm just absolutely appalled, like, at some of that sometimes. Not, you know, not to bring a damper to this subject, but that definitely grinds my gears a little bit. But
yeah, I mean, it's crazy to even think that they could hold someone like Barry Bonds. I mean, steroids or not, he hit 762 home runs. Like,
he had a season. I think it was the 73 home run season. He had the most walks ever with the least strikeouts ever. Like, they would literally walk this man with the bases loaded, like, take the run in a tie game so they wouldn't go down 4 runs. Like, that is unprecedented. Yeah. Like, you cannot bring another player that had the impact. Like baseball is not, never will be, and has not been as exciting as when Barry Bonds, like I remember he hit more home runs in the water of that park, like, double than anyone else has combined. And I remember every day I felt like the balls are splashing out there. So it was an amazing time. I think the steroids saved baseball, in my opinion. And I mean, for as a kid when we watched it, if it wasn't for them taking steroids and hitting all them home runs out of the park, I mean, look at the viewership during that time. Like, it was crazy. People watched the game like they do now. Why? Because people are hitting home runs. That's why people watch the game. Like, not saying that I love good old classic baseball, but I mean, home runs, they're touchdowns, you know what I mean? So
yeah, they sell tickets.
Yeah.
Put fans in the stands.
And the average
right.
baseball viewer is 55 years old. We need to figure out a way to keep baseball going, man. It's too beautiful of a sport. So honestly, I think that's that's all we got today. Seems like it was a breeze. Took like a couple minutes, but I had a blast, man. I'm really excited to have you on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I love talking sports. I know I'm on a fantasy football podcast, but I'm a faithful sports fan through and through. I watch everything I can watch: hockey, golf, anything, you name it. I know a little bit about everything and a lot about some other sports. But anytime you want me on here, man, just let me know and I'll call in because it was fun. I'm glad you had a good first episode. I thought it went pretty well. And just guys, make sure you subscribe so these episodes get downloaded to your phone automatically. You can just pop them on, listen for 45 minutes or however long the episode is, and get some good sports takes. That's not biased and it's going to be truthful. And if you got any feedback, let us know.
Oh, for sure, guys. DM us. Follow me on Twitter at King Sportscast, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes. I'm gonna get this episode loaded as fast as I can. I really appreciate everyone who's listening and subscribing. Also, really go check out Wayne's highly offensive fantasy football podcast. iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter. We're definitely going to be more interactive. We really appreciate all the support, and definitely let us know how you feel, and let me know how you think of Wayne, if we should have him on more, because I think today went well.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me again, and I appreciate the support, guys. Y'all keep us going.
Sweet. All right, guys. Well, I will see you next week. Let's get excited football games going on Thanksgiving. Get some food in us, and I'll see you later, Wayne.
Take it easy, man. Thanks.
All right, brother.